Hello, dear friends, welcome to our YouTube channel, USA Football Zone, latest football highlights. It is a rivalry that defines an entire continent, a game that truly captivates the world. When Argentina and Brazil face off, it is more than just a match, it is a battle of pride, history, and the quest to prove one's supremacy. But on the eve of the 2026 World Cup, this legendary reached a new dimension of drama. It was not merely a game. It was a two-part epic, one in which an impenetrable fortress crumbled, and an empire was brought to its knees. One night was charged with intense, violent tension, culminating in a historic. The second night was one of absolute dominance, resulting in the complete collapse of the opposing side. This is the story of how Argentina did not merely defeat Brazil, but utterly crushed them. The stage for the first chapter of this epic was Rio de Janeiro's iconic Maracanã Stadium. And long before kickoff, the atmosphere was thick with hostility. The world watched in astonishment as the World Cup Qualifier was halted for nearly 30 minutes after violent clashes erupted between fans in the stands and the police. Amidst the chaos, the Argentine players, led by their captain, Lionel Messi, ventured into the stands in an attempt to restore calm. They then retreated to their dressing room, leaving the fate of the match hanging in the balance. This was not merely pre-match jitters, it was a powder keg waiting to explode. When the match finally began, that chaotic energy spilled directly onto the pitch. The first half was no exhibition of beautiful football, it was a brutal, ugly war. It was a tactical street fight masquerading as a World Cup qualifier. Playing on home soil, Brazil appeared absolutely determined to win at any cost. They committed 16 fouls in the opening 45 minutes alone. Compared to Argentina's 6, every tackle was visibly venomous. Despite this aggression, genuine goal-scoring opportunities were few and far between. Throughout the entire first half, Brazil was the only team to manage a direct shot on goal, a fact that speaks volumes about just how suffocated and defensive both sides were forced to become. It was a fierce battle, charged with intense tension, leaving you certain that a single moment would ultimately decide the fate of the entire match. As the second half progressed, both teams remained locked in a stalemate. The beautiful game itself seemed buried beneath a mountain of fouls, both standard and tactical. But then, in the 63rd minute, that moment destined for immortality finally arrived. Argentina won a corner kick. As Giovanni Lo Celso stepped up to deliver the ball, a palpable sense of anticipation and tension hung in the air. He whipped a magnificent cross directly into the heart of the Brazilian penalty area. And on that night in Rio, Nicolas Otamendi rose like a colossus. The defender headed the ball with every ounce of his strength, a header so precise and powerful that the Brazilian goalkeeper could do nothing but watch helplessly as the ball crashed into the net. The Maracanã Stadium fell silent, leaving everyone in utter shock. Otamendi's goal pierced the very heart of Brazilian football like a knife. In the final 30 minutes, Brazil unleashed their full might in a ferocious and desperate assault on Argentina. Yet, anchored by the courageous Emi Martinez between the posts, the Argentine defense proved impenetrable. They thwarted every attack, blocked every shot, and fought tooth and nail for every single inch of the pitch. As the final whistle blew, the Argentine camp erupted in jubilation, while the Brazilian camp plunged into despair. This was not merely a 1-0 victory, it was a historic event. For the very first time in the history of FIFA World Cup qualifiers, Brazil had suffered a defeat on home soil. Their decades-long record of invincibility was shattered. This marked Brazil's third consecutive defeat, a result that relegated the five-time world champions to a humiliating 6th place in the league standings. Their impenetrable fortress had crumbled, and the repercussions were only just beginning. Months later, on March 25, 2025, the stage was set for a return match. The battlefield this time was the Estadio Más Monumental in Buenos Aires. The narrative this time around was starkly different from the last. The reigning world champions, Argentina, were in magnificent form. In fact, just hours before kickoff, a draw between Bolivia and Uruguay had already secured Argentina's spot in the 2026 World Cup. They had become the first South American team to qualify. They took the field free of any pressure, yet imbued with the confidence of champions, a confidence that drives them to play not merely for points, but for something far greater. They were playing for the opportunity to rub salt into the wounds of their greatest rival. For Brazil, this was a chance to reclaim their lost prestige. They were desperate to avenge the humiliation suffered at the Maracanã. Yet, awaiting them in Buenos Aires was not redemption. but rather a crushing defeat. Argentina began playing with ferocious intensity from the very moment the opening whistle blew, an intensity Brazil simply could not match. They were left struggling to keep up. The onslaught began just 4 minutes into the game. A magnificent passing sequence tore through the Brazilian defense, and Thiago Almada found Julian Alvarez. He delivered a powerful pass, maintaining absolute composure, slotted the ball into the net, sending the entire stadium into a frenzy. Before Brazil could even fully grasp what had happened, Argentina struck again, just 12 minutes into the match. Following a beautifully coordinated team attack, Nahuel Molina passed the ball to Enzo Fernandez, who finished with clinical precision to make the score 2-0. The El Monumental Stadium erupted in sheer jubilation. The world champions were putting on a flawless display of skill. The Brazilian players looked completely bewildered. Their game plan had already crumbled under such dire circumstances. They deserve credit for breathing new life into Brazil. Argentina's otherwise superb defender, Cristian Romero, committed a rare error. Presenting an opening, Matheus Cunha pounced on the ball and headed it past the goalkeeper to score. For a fleeting moment, a faint glimmer of hope appeared. Could Brazil weather this storm? The answer was an immediate and emphatic. Just before halftime, Argentina scored a dazzling and impeccable goal. Enzo Fernandez, who had already found the net earlier, threaded a perfectly timed pass over the top of the Brazilian defense. Alexis Mac Allister received the ball and, with a delicate touch, chipped it over the goalkeeper and into the net, bringing the score to 3-1. The goal was so artistic that it served as irrefutable proof of Argentina's dominance. The second half was merely a formality. Argentina controlled the tempo of the game, while Brazil looked like a team completely devoid of morale. The final nail in the coffin was driven in by a substitute. Giuliano Simeone, son of legendary coach Diego Simeone, stepped off the bench and fired a powerful shot from a tight angle to score the fourth goal, 4-1. For Brazil, this was a crushing defeat. The statistics told the whole story. Argentina took 12 shots, while Brazil managed only 3. And 7 of Argentina's shots were on target, whereas Brazil had just 1. A particularly staggering statistic was that Brazil failed to score a single goal from a corner kick throughout the entire match. The final whistle confirmed Argentina's biggest victory over Brazil since the 1960s and Brazil's worst defeat in the history of World Cup qualifiers. The repercussions were immediate. Just a few days later, the Brazilian Football Association announced that coach Dorival Jr. had been relieved of his duties. While Argentina celebrated atop the table with 31 points, Brazil had slumped to 4th place. They were in the throes of utter chaos, forced to rebuild their squad from the ashes of 2 of the most painful defeats in their modern history. These 2 matches were not merely qualifying fixtures, they constituted a defining chapter in a great rivalry. From a thrilling, historic night at the Maracana to a stunning victory at the Monumental, Argentina proved exactly why they are the world champions. They not only qualified for the upcoming World Cup but achieved this success by defeating their greatest rival not once, but twice in truly unforgettable fashion. If you would like to enjoy more great football stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Be sure to let us know in the comments which moment you think was the most significant in this historic match. See you next time.